Alright YouTube, so we were back of course to talk about some more Final Fantasy VII Remake. So today we have yet another piece of concept art to look at that I thought was pretty interesting. Now itself isn't totally video worthy, so we're going to talk about something else after this. But I did want to look at this too within this video, and it's a concept art for Tseng, but Tseng with short hair, which is pretty cool. So anyways, yesterday the Remake Twitter account dropped this and said, it's not very often we talk about Tseng, so we're starting this week with some special concept art of him with short hair. Regrettably, this look was never implemented in Final Fantasy VII Remake, but we hope you like it nonetheless. Now first off, I do think he looks pretty cool with shorter hair just because it's a different look. The Tseng we've always known has pretty much always had pretty long hair, but I don't think it's necessarily regrettable just because his major look that most people know is with the longer hair. That being said, within Crisis Core, he did have a little bit shorter hair, though it's kind of pulled back into like a ponytail. But it looks like if he were to like let it down, it'd be pretty much shoulder length, just like this concept art. So there's actually a bit of precedent, at least in like the past of the FF7 story, for him to have a little bit shorter hair, which is kind of weird why they didn't implement this into Remake, especially when we get a flashback where Elmira tells us about like Aerith when she was younger, and we see a younger Tseng. Tseng looks the exact same as he does in the present time for Remake, which is kind of strange because that'd been the perfect opportunity to make use of this concept art, give him the shorter hair here. Which I actually seen somebody mention in reply to the concept art tweet, because with this flashback, it's, you know, Aerith's pretty young. So maybe like 15 or so years ago. Tseng is 30 within the remake, so 15 years before then he'd be like 15, at least a teenager, but he looks like a grown-ass man here, which is kind of strange. You think they would have made him look younger with shorter hair, but they didn't. It's one of those things I didn't really think about until it was pointed out to me, like with that flashback, how long ago that flashback was supposed to be. Like, it seems almost lazy when you think about it that they didn't even attempt to make Tseng look any different all that time ago when he's a kid. It makes it even worse whenever you see that they had concept art for what he could look like, at least with shorter hair, not necessarily younger, but then they also have a character model, so to speak, of him within Crisis Core with also shorter hair and also younger. So I don't know, it's just one of those things. Now the other thing I wanted to talk about, it's probably in the title of the thumbnail, is in regards to First Soldier, and it's our potential first look at the Xiii tribe when it comes to Remake potentially. And why I say that is because if you look at all the stuff that's within First Soldier, it's a lot of assets that we've seen in Remake. A good example of that is Ifrit, of course, and some of the enemies. Just some of the enemies are exactly what they look like in Remake. Ifrit looks exactly like he does in Remake. Even with some of the character skins that we get, like the Unknown Entity, like this was obviously an enemy that we fought with in Remake, it looks exactly the damn same. The point of all this is that it might go both ways, where stuff that we see within First Soldier might also eventually appear in Remake, and what we have is a character skin that seems to be something for the Xiii tribe. Very quick TLDR for those of you that may not remember what the Xiii tribe is, or maybe you don't even know what it is at all because you haven't played the original FF7, but they were a tribe that were warring with Cosmo Canyon. Of course, Cosmo Canyon was protected by Red 13 species, and once we get to the end of the Cave of the Xiii, Red 13 learns the truth about his dad, that Seto died a hero. That's kind of it. There's not really like a whole shit ton of lore as far as I'm aware on the Xiii tribe, which is why this could be a little bit interesting what we're seeing within First Soldier. Big shout out to VG-Only7 for tweeting about this a couple days back, and we kind of talked about it a little bit on Twitter. Now, in regards to their tweet, I'm not necessarily here to like dispute it, but they think that like certain aspects of this character skin might be references to Nanaki or Red 13 or whatever. But the thing is, there's already a character skin within First Soldier that's like directly inspired by Red 13 to the point that it gives you like a flaming tail. Can't find an image for it, but I know that whenever the game launched, I was on there playing, did like the demo or tutorial or whatever, and went to the shop afterwards to look, and character skin was in there, but I just can't seem to find it on Google Images. Now, in regards to this character skin being related to the Xiii tribe, for starters, it's called Tribal Garb, which, as far as, to the best of my knowledge, in the FF7 universe, there's only one group of people referred to as tribe or tribal anything, and that's the Xiii tribe. So here's a little collage I made with, in the middle is Xiii. He's the boss that you fight within the Cave of the Xiii in the original FF7. You can see that he's wearing a necklace that has like bones or teeth or whatever on it. You can see that also on the character skin from First Soldier. The main takeaway too, besides that's a pretty obvious one for me, the horns on Xiii are white at the base and they go into a red tip. Same thing on this character skin. Then also something else I noticed when looking at this comparison right here, the side by side, is that Xiii has like a red like diamond on his head. And while that's not necessarily on this character skin, on the skull there actually is a red like diamond like drawn on there, painted on there, whatever. And then also, while it's kind of hard to tell with the original, PS1 graphics from back in the day, like Xiii seems to have, I would assume, a headdress or something like that with feathers on it, because they're a tribal people or whatever. So same thing, obviously, with the character skin in First Soldier, there's feathers. So I think without a doubt, with all the smaller details, when you look at like the character skin within First Soldier, the tribal garb, I think it's 100% at least a reference or maybe foreshadowing for what the Xiii tribe is going to look like. Now, when it comes to the original FF7, all we had in terms of the Gi, like, to look at was Talk that we just looked at. There's also an enemy called the Gi Spectre within the Cave of the Gi, which is, I'm assuming, what maybe like a ghost version of what they look like at least the regular people. So if you were in your mind to like kind of combine the two, we could get like a vague idea of what the Gi tribe could look like in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, assuming that we do get to see them, and I think we will, because we're going to get a lot more for Red 13 and like Cosmic Canon and all that stuff in general. They're fleshing out everything, obviously, right? So I'm assuming there might be like a flashback whenever Bugenhagen's telling the story or something like that. And again, there's multiple assumptions here, but assuming that there's crossover where stuff that's in First Soldier could also eventually be in Remake, this could be a good idea of what the Gi tribe's going to look like, which I think is pretty cool. Because again, something like the Ancients, like Remake gave us, like, assuming that the Shinra like VR simulation that we got was accurate and true, gave us our first look at the Ancients. You know, this within First Soldier could be our first look at what the Gi tribe looks like, and that to me is pretty damn cool. But anyways, that's pretty much the video. So I've been wanting to talk about that Gi tribe like outfit for the last couple of days now, but I just didn't know if itself is video worthy. But it was actually a pretty long part of this video. I probably could have made its own like separate video if I wanted to, but we're throwing it in here. Fuck it. So of course, passing up to you guys, what are your thoughts on what we talked about within this video? The concept art for Song with the shorter hair. When it comes to First Soldier, something I'm very curious about what you guys think is, do you think there is going to be crossover? Do you think that stuff that we're seeing within First Soldier, of course, it's a game that takes place in the past, is some of the, maybe they'll use assets from First Soldier eventually also in Remake. So again, maybe the Gi tribe, maybe some other enemies or bosses, outfits, weapons, anything like that. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and to more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications, follow me on Twitter, @DavidYT, and my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro, I'm losing my voice. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like low gain or leave it like Cobain.